but everybody now has been, should have the link.
So we're
Well,
up to 6. All
let's
right.
let people pop in as they can. We will put the vibe out. Like there's zero Zoom bombing that's going to happen, like what happened at, I guess, Heidi's PTA meeting last night, as she was mentioning a few minutes ago. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'll get into a little bit of detail about the format in a second. The first thing I want to do is give the floor to my good friend Richard Glazer for an introduction and a little lead-in thoughts. So
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Adriana and Tom Myers. You know, there's a team of 4 of us that have really banded together to pick up the ball after, you know, our lockdown and this incredible era began, and adopt this new format of virtual coffee. We call it give and take. And I want to remind you what RocGrowth is about. Some of you are very familiar and have been connected to our community of 2,200 for a while, and others are relatively new. We are a community. We're about building community. We're about empowering the new Rochester to restore Rochester to its rightful place among leading progressive and innovative cities. We're also highlight our community's great innovators and entrepreneurs. One of our we produce monthly events, and our signature event, the one we launched initially when we were founded in 2014, is called RocGrowth Candidates. And on our website, we actually have an archive of 30 fireside chat style interviews we've conducted over the years. And I see Paul Tracy out there. He's usually the man behind the camera who has recorded those. So they're there for people to watch or listen as a podcast. And there's some remarkable individuals we've featured. We also instigate creative collisions. We prefer doing it in the flesh, but digitally seems to work. We did this several weeks ago, and we had tremendous positive feedback and constructive results. So we are continuing this. We're also informed by promoting greater equality of race, age, class, and gender. And that latter component of our mission is the real driver behind this virtual coffee give and take. And it was conceived right after this sort of lockdown took place. And I think there's uniformity in our organizing group, where there's a sense that you could judge a society by how it treats its most needy and dispossessed. And there are truly many people struggling. I hear people groveling and complaining. We've all taken a blow, whether to our 401k, if we're fortunate to have one, or being stuck in a house with young kids who are going nuts and bouncing off the walls. But there are some true victims who are suffering. And because we're about this community, we know that there are people who are suffering more. And we also know there are people in our community that can help those. So this is a mechanism or a vehicle to create that interface. I must say, we have all the social media channels. We have 1,000 followers typically in Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. We encourage you to share this information, use those, register if you're not. And also, we have a very functional website with useful information. If you're not yet registered to receive our email notifications, please go to the website, use it. It's a resource for the community. And I'm going to hand it over to Chris, who is a community builder extraordinaire. I came up with that term, but he'll prove it within the next hour. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate that. And I want to take a quick second. This is an interesting time that we're in right now, and I want to take a quick second to just welcome everyone, truly welcome you. This is a space that we've talked a lot about as an internal team a space to be somewhat vulnerable, to be welcomed, to be able to thrive, and to be able to maybe potentially tap into the fears that you may have about the unknown. And what I mean by that is, I've been honored to be a part of a group called Exploring Racism. Richard is a part of that. And Tom Mitchell, who's also here, and a few others that may be joining the call. That has been an incredible opportunity to really start to identify some of the vast discrepancies between some of the populations and communities here in our community, in our city. And I believe what this gives us is an opportunity to also explore some of the things that maybe structural issues that we all live with on a daily basis, some that we may not even know about. And so in this time, this kind of interesting and strange time, it's a change. And in this time, I think one of the cool changes and the positive changes is that we all get to see each other in more of a human element than we normally would, which is, you know, Richard mentioned our physical in-person event at the co-working space. And there's a difference to that because we show up in our business casual attire. We have some label that we assign to ourselves, which is, this is the job that I do, or this is the consulting realm that I'm in. And in this case, we're all people. We're in our homes. You're in my home, you know. And I think that there's a positive that we take out of that, which is we get to experience each other in a very different way. And so the topic or the theme that we wanted to bring out today in this give and take, and it could even be considered a give and receive, is bringing up some of those issues and allowing people to present who have their boots on the ground and are working within these communities to help elevate, accentuate the value there, and also to help us as a group understand some of the challenges that they're facing that we may not experience on a daily basis. We certainly don't, some of us. And so I also want to preface with the fact that I myself am exploring what it means to have white privilege. And so if there is anything that I say throughout my learning process, please send me a direct message. If there is anything that I say that is incorrect, I would love to know that, and so that we can adjust in the future. So I want to thank you all for being here. This is designed to be something that is a resource, and we want to be able to hear stories and challenges and also come up with solutions. So as I lead into a little bit of the format, some of the logistics, this is not an opportunity for you to pitch your sales idea. This is not a way there to directly ask for money, although I know that there are some organizations that could really use that. So we'll be a little more lenient on the ask for capital. It's not a pitch. It's more about requesting a solution to a challenge that you might have. I know that there were some people who were on the last call that contacted me directly after and said, I had a flood of resources contact me, and after I was able to present a little bit of what my challenge was, and the ideas that came out of that were incredible. So what we have is, again, this space. Please be respectful of others. There's a chat. You can chat with the entirety of this collective, or you can send a personal chat. And if you'd like to say something, you can raise your hand. There's a lot of people on this call, so I might miss you. You can digitally raise your hand, or you can send me a private message in the chat, and I will certainly address that. And yeah, we can kind of kick things off. We have a few what we would call speakers today, and I would just ask that everyone keep it concise, minimize your storytelling, and be as direct as you can. We will wrap up at 9 o'clock, and we will also have the chat saved. So any links that you would like to post, or if you'd like to leave your email as a presenter or a website, please post it in the chat and we'll download that and we'll post everything along with a recording of the video. So without much more of me talking, I like to kind of roll right into the speakers. And so I know Jill Stolt is here somewhere. Jill is someone that I've had the pleasure to get to know over the last few years, and Jill is doing some incredible work with city youth. And Jill, I'd like to unmute you and let you talk for a little while about your projects and some of the challenges that are happening. One last thing before you kick things off, Jill, I would say, once we get through the presenters, we're gonna field challenges from the entire group. And what we would like to do is have a bit of a dialogue about potentially working together as a group to solve some of those challenges. So we're just gonna roll with it. It's very organic. And Jill, are you ready? I'm gonna spotlight you here so everyone's gonna be able to see you. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Chris, and good morning, everybody. First, I want to thank RocGrowth and in particular Richard and Chris. You guys really inspire us to come together in support of the entrepreneurial community. And I love that old saying, alone we succeed, together we thrive. So, and I watched the presentation last week and the RocGrowth Coffee last week and was very inspired, and developed some partnerships that I'd like to talk about today and the challenges that the youth are facing. Some of you know Wellventions, which is the name of the organization. We're a nonprofit under Prosper Rochester. And I'd like to introduce our online partner, our new partner, Pointy, and they run a work readiness program. And some of you may have seen Wellventions at the public market. We run a cafe booth there. Actually, the kids run it inside the new building. And we support the youth to operate their own business, and it serves as a job and entrepreneurial training site. We also test consumer products there. The kids learn business and customer service skills, and they test their retail products, and they've invented those products. But these kids are facing what I think are insurmountable challenges right now. They're staying up late at night, they're surfing the internet for hours rather than engaging in the online learning from their schools. Some of the schools are, and very few of them, are regulating them to be online every day with their teachers or doing assignments, but most of them have assignments that are 2-3 weeks out. They're pressed into service to care for their younger siblings. Now we work with high school teens and young adults on the autistic spectrum, but across the board they're bored. And because there's no end game, a lot of them have eliminated the testing, and they've been giving a reprieve on their regular hours. And even when they've received a computer from their schools, they lose the chargers, the video cameras don't work. So they're back on the internet and have an increasingly hard time focusing. I've been hearing a lot from their parents. They're begging me to do something. We have been busy setting up a partnership with Pointy, who's an established online workforce readiness portal. And they have students complete levels to earn prizes, similar to how the kids are used to gaming. So we've been integrating both our curriculums online, and we are going to be hiring youth for part-time jobs to develop and popularize some work that our kids have been doing around anger management. I'm sorry. Our students had begun development on workshops to support training their peers. It was a peer-to-peer training project, and we're working to bring their training modules online. So we're recruiting and interviewing students for part-time jobs. We're hoping to support building an economy for both the kids and local artists by creating products that contain these anger management messages. and we would test them online and sell them online and at the public market once we reopen. So we were inspired last week in Printable Solutions and all of the help that you offered to support them. And we will be partnering with them to print these products for online sales and on demand at the market. Students will also work with all ages and cultures. So they'll work with the adults to learn the skills that come when they develop products, and then train their peers. So leadership training, marketing skills. And then the students completing the program will have a starter online profile and resume for employment. And our graduate leaders will interview and train incoming students to complete the loop. So our challenge is structuring a co-development model that's fair and equitable to our partnering businesses and the artists supporting our development work. And we also need computers and access to the internet for our students. And lastly, we'd like to offer our students are ready to rock and roll. We don't have the funding yet to put them to work and pay them, but they would like to offer their amazing creative writing and illustration skills. We have several amazing illustrators, and they can support designing and are coming up with custom messages for t-shirts that teenage students can print. So thank you for this opportunity, and you guys rock.
Jill, thank you. Super inspiring. I've had the pleasure of tasting some of the products from the market and meeting some of the young adults that, or the students that you work with, and they're just incredible human beings, and what you've done to empower them is very special. So thank you for sharing. I know, Jill, you mentioned that you had a link to a PowerPoint. Would you be able to put that link in the chat, please, for the rest of the group here? And also, if there's one thing that I might mention that I heard you say, is that one of the challenges, although you're having challenges as an organization, it sounds like one of the challenges for the students is boredom. That's what I heard. And so I would kind of feed this out to the rest of the group and say, maybe there's ways that we can think of creatively to combat that boredom that are accessible for some of these students. And like you mentioned, Jill, the internet. I heard a statistic, something like 60% of people who live north of the inner loop in the city do not have access to the internet. So please consider these things as you think about some of the challenges and maybe some of the things that I might take for granted. I do not anymore, I can tell you that. So thank you, Jill. Really appreciate you filling us in on what you're up to. And please put that link in the chat for sure. Is Armand here? Armand, I saw a message from here. Yeah, there he is. Armand, we haven't had the pleasure to meet just yet, but it's nice to virtually meet you. You're on the docket here, and you have an incredible background. Looks like you have a nice sunny day in Rochester, and it's
from
like,
you like that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. You have the floor, my friend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you to you, Chris, and to Richard, and to RocGrowth for doing this and setting this up. I was on the last call, and it was really great to see everyone rally around the people that had comments and concerns last time. It felt like a real community, and I think that's really important for what we're trying to do. So I'm the executive director of the Rock Music Collaborative, and it's a very interesting public-private partnership in the city that includes the Eastman School of Music, the Hochstein School, the City of Rochester, the Gateways Music Festival, the RCSD, and the RPO all have come together to say that they want to make sure that there's great music education happening for all of the students in Rochester, not just the ones who can afford to take the lessons and be a part of the ensembles in our fantastic schools. So coming here to Rochester, it was, how do we get this music training and all of this great cultural, all the great cultural representation that's here in Rochester into the community. So we teach music lessons. Each student gets 6 hours a week in their local art center. So we have 3 art center sites that we're running. We have over 125 students involved in the program. It started in 2012. The city provides the Art Center space for us to be in kind, to work with the students. And we were really pushing hard to make sure that we're creating reach across the city by opening up satellite sites at more of the Art Centers that are connected to public schools. And it's open to any student 1st through 12th grade in the city of Rochester. So regardless of whether they go to RCSD or an independent school or they're homeschooled, we actually have a lot of homeschool students. So our student population is actually really diverse. And I like to talk about their families as well. So when they join rock music, they join this rock music family. So while we're teaching music, what we're actually trying to do is teach students leadership skills and self-advocacy and self-expression. And we're doing more and more about having concerts in and around the city. So it's not just your typical learn to play this instrument, but don't really know what to do with it. Well, all of that, was progressing as normally until this happened, and we restructured very quickly, and we now have almost 80% of our students taking online lessons with our teachers. Now, yes, that's sort of wrecking our cash flow because it's just not efficient to teach individual lessons, but it's what we have to do, and we're teaching across all platforms, whatever the parents are used to and whatever they have. What this has done for us, though, it has exacerbated the people that we had hard times getting in contact with. And there are about 30 students that we cannot seem to get in touch with. And I think it's a lot of it is because they don't have the stable internet that Chris was talking about, or the parents are still working and the one device that they had that they use to communicate, that's at work with the parents and not at home with the children. Although the students receive free instruments, and as far as we know, everyone's instrument was taken home. I have delivered instruments to students' houses and shipped new strings and bows if something has broken. So that's not our issue, it's the connectivity. And what we're trying to do is find ways to provide, whether it be getting temporary hotspots or devices to give to students and families, because I also know that a lot of the families, even if they have a cell phone that is video capable, that is one cell phone in the house and not an extra tablet or something else for the student to use for their lessons and the way to connect with our community. I'd love to have you all, if you get a chance, go to our website and on our Facebook page. We just did our first online recital this past Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we premiered it live on Facebook. And we've gotten a lot of great communication from people about how wonderful it was to see the students still working, because we didn't stop teaching. We were able to get online very quickly. Thankful that I have great teachers who were able to figure that out. But I'm really more and more as the days go by becoming concerned about these students that I cannot reach. One of the other things that we use, we sort of take this spread technique of trying to reach everyone. So we use the Facebook email, we send home letters to parents, and we use Instagram, but we also use this program called Remind. And there's a free version of the Remind that allows you to send messages that go to either emails or cell phones, and it'll come across as SMS messages so that we can communicate and say, here's what we're doing. We're finding now we need to use that one more because it's sort of cross-platform within that Remind app. And so trying to find a way to get the money to get the real program that allows me to leave voice messages through the app. So it goes to either the email and is transcribed, or to the phone. If there is no text messaging on the phone, it goes to the voicemail. And it's a more thorough way to communicate. We were starting to switch our development plan to getting corporate sponsorships to have this happen, because none of our students pay anything to be a part of our program. So all the instruction, the instrument, the repair of the instrument, everything is free. And because we get great city work, we have free access to spaces. So all we do is raise money to pay the teachers, and we try to pay people living wages because there's great musicians and fantastic people here in Rochester. So all of that is still going on, but to try to add this extra program, which I think will allow us to communicate better, this Remind app. Any ideas about how to do that? But really, I'm just racking my brain about what other things can I be thinking about to connect to our students who we can't get anything from, because the traditional, we would see them when they would come to the R Center method is no longer there. We're going to keep putting out the recitals, and we're going to keep teaching online until the money runs out, and then we'll keep teaching after that. because right now these students need something that is enjoyable, and this I call learning an instrument an employable skill, and learning to get out there and perform. And as soon as we can get out, we're going to be back out performing in coffee shops and wherever we can. So on another note, if anybody is ever interested in having student performances in their space, I'm always looking for non-traditional venues for our families to perform, so that they can know that there's other places besides Kodak Hall to perform and make live music. But really just trying to connect with our students. And I think that being able to offer families connectivity and devices might be one of the ways to do that. So I appreciate all of your time, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak here to you guys today. And our website, I'll type it in the chat when I'm done, is Rock Music. That's RocMusic.org. You can go there, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We put up pictures of the students, they're learning. I'm just really inspired by how everybody has continued this work during this time. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to some amazing ideas that I couldn't think of.
Armand, thank you, man. That's it's incredible, you know, to hear you talk about continuing to move forward in the face of adversity. Thank you for what you do. And I actually was having a conversation the other day about internet access, and it's really when we look at it, it's a privilege, and it should be more of a utility. And so I wonder, you know, and this is a conversation for another day, but how do we make that happen? You know, it's a systemic, it's a larger problem than just, hey, let me pay $50 and turn the internet on for someone, because it's a resource. And so that, again, you've spurred my creative mindset, and I know we have a couple more people who need to hop on here, but I'm wondering if we open up a dialogue to address some of the challenges that you've been mentioning. Armand, if you'd like, in the chat, if you want people to connect with you directly,
Yes.
Feel free to use that chat to put your contact information if you're comfortable with that, or if people have direct, you can do a private chat directly to Armand if that's the way you prefer to communicate. But this is your platform, so use it the way you will. I would like to see if Tom Mitchell is here. Tom, are you in the house somewhere?
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, all. Thank you. And thanks for the inspiration already provided here. I'm not really maybe talking about maybe any particular community outreach, which a lot is going on there, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the presentations. But what I'm here to talk about is something that I've learned, both that has benefited my business, but more importantly, me personally. And that is really understanding, you know, how I've contributed, you know, to the structural racism, you know, that does exist in our community, and maybe ignoring and not understanding the white privilege, you know, that I have, you know, benefited from, you know. And I think during this period of with the COVID-19, you know, pandemic, you know, we see it even more how, you know, white individuals, you know, have great advantages, and the you know, many in the people of color, you know, have, you know, significant disadvantages, and this is persistent across all communities. And while the things we're doing, you're doing, you know, are significant, and, you know, are meant to help, you know, I do believe unless we as individuals, you know, understand the structure of racism, you know, how it came to be, you know, what keeps it in place, you know, and understand the true privilege it is to be seen as, you know, a white individual, you know, it won't be dismantled. You know, we can chip away at it, but, you know, it won't be sustainable. That effort won't be sustainable. We believe, you know, I believe, and I think those that work with me believe, you know, this only happened, you know, when individuals understand how they contribute to this system through their personal prejudice and bias. And we all have it. You know, some may have less than others, but it exists. And unless we understand it, we won't be able to correct it. So, you know, what, you know, I'm offering and working with a small group of people, we're offering as a program that we've, you know, put together through, you know, learning and discussions with many others and much reading and reflection to mutually explore issues of race and racism, as they impact us individually, personally, and our organizations, culture, including but not limited to understanding our own racial conditioning, as it relates to us personally and to our leadership, to our organizations, studying the history of race and racism, understanding that structural racism in our white society, processing current situations or recent situations faced by us as individuals in our organizations and our community, and exploring particular leadership challenges related to laws and recruitment, inclusion, and so on. And, we all want to do things and we all need to do things. There's much urgent need in the community. But again, as I said earlier, unless, this is to be a sustainable effort, we're going to make sustainable change. We believe, understanding, learning is maybe one of the steps that can be taken in parallel with, but certainly needs to be taken in order to us to really make change personally and then be able to affect change in our communities. So we have a 1-year program. Sounds like a lot, but where small groups, discussion groups meet monthly for about an hour and a half. And the groups that are formed kind of come up with a day during a month and a time that works for them, and work through a somewhat self-facilitated program with maybe a person that's been through it before. So we invite you to that. And I will, put my email and, phone number, in the chat box if you have an interest, but I just offer it. I'm always inspired and impressed by so many of the good things that are being done in the community. And I applaud you for that. And we all should be doing something, but I think we also need to work on ourselves in order to make a long-lasting difference. So thank you, Chris and Richard, for this opportunity. And
you're welcome. Thank you. And I can personally vouch for the program that Tom mentioned. I've made a year-long commitment, and that year-long commitment has been going on for a few months. And I can say that for me anyway, there's once you open your mind to personal development and some of these systemic issues, it's for me, it's impossible to go back. I think that there's an awareness that comes along with exploring oneself, and especially in this way. And Tom, I thank you for making the space for that. I know that you had a challenge of wanting to engage 1,000 people. Was there a timeline for that? Can I bring that up? I'm putting you on the spot, man.
It was 2 years, which probably isn't fast enough, but I also realize how difficult, what the challenge of that will be, but it will happen. I think maybe there's 50 to 75 people on this if we all maybe commit ourselves, but also think of some friends, colleagues that would be, again, willing to do the same. But yes, we're going to work towards it. What's maybe more important is that we affect change in our own organizations. If you have a 1-person, 10-person, 100-person organization, and you lead that or have some influence in that organization, you can help affect change just by your change and kind of changing and helping the culture of that organization change. But yes, I did say that. I guess maybe I regret saying it, but you put it out there, Chris. So I guess I got to do something with it. And there's others working with me. I think Frank Starapoli's on the line here, and Gary Domenico, and certainly you and Richard have been great help. So thank you very much for the opportunity here.
You're welcome. You have full support. I believe that I actually grew up in a diverse community, and through my own awareness, I realized that I was quite misinformed, and this program has helped me understand that. Is Jason Willis here somewhere? Jason, can you hear me?
I can. I'm here. Listening to this beautiful music you got going. See,
Jason, hey man, I'm trying to find you in the chat for a second. There you are. Hey, and I also want to say that before I give you the floor, man, I was having lunch with Jason, and because of this group and this awareness and this consciousness, I thought that I was fairly in tune with some of my white privilege to some microaggressions that happen. And Jason made me very aware at lunch of some microaggressions that were happening right around us. And so I appreciate you for that, my friend. And you have the floor.
Yeah, I think, wow, I need you guys at 8 o'clock every morning. Certainly, Sister Jill, Brother Tom, and I'm sure a myriad of other folks. I'll go back and listen to last week's presentation. I can't be in your presence without Richard. And so I'm certainly thankful and appreciative of the opportunity to come and just showcase and spotlight some of the things that I think are germane, not only for the students of the city of Rochester and our youth, but our greater Rochester community in the vein of advocacy, action, and agency. And I think that all of those things are necessary right now. I think sometimes when we want to move the most fast, we need to be the most still. And Chris has provided us a platform to be in a space where we can be still and we can hear and we can listen and we can breathe. And I think that that's all really, really powerful. To open, Chris, just to kind of dovetail off of how you open, that is what you can do and how it is that you're supposed to move when you're moving from core authenticity. And so when you enter a conversation and you immediately let folks know that you are acutely aware of your privilege, it becomes a synthesis of energies that you provide that set the tone for the way the rest of the conversation is going to move. I can't tell you how thankful I am, and I welcome myself, A, as a student, B, as a scholar, C, as a human, to your group, to engage that group. Tom, I'll certainly catch up with you in the chat. I think that doing these things and having these conversations, you know, as an instructor, as an educator, as someone that has a focus on African-American history and what's going on in urban communities, you know, nobody brings up Joan Mulholland, you know, 50 sit-ins before age 23. They don't, you know, the system isn't created to elevate and to lift her story so that we can hear how it is that none of the revolutionary movements that have ever transpired in the United States of America transpire in the absence of Caucasian Americans, right? It's an everybody thing. They don't tell you about James Word, the first one to get off the Freedom Riders bus. But this is public information. And so if anybody wants it, we can find ways to engage. I think for the nature of today, I really just want to set the platform and pass the microphone to an organization that I think is already doing wonderful work in the community, that has a tap on what's going on with the nature of education and some of the things that are acutely germane to the students' experiences now. A major focus for mine is to move from deficit-based mind state regarding communities to an asset-based mind state, while still being aware that there are challenges within communities. Educational Success Foundation, who are backed by the Sands family, create any number of ways to engage communities, to facilitate resources for students. And Jamar Myers, who not only is an integral piece of that organization, but certainly someone that I consider an ally. You know, I see so many allies on this call, King Ackley, King Starpoli, you know, just thankful for the work that you guys are doing. So I'm gonna bring in Brother Jamar Myers, I think, in concert with Chris, and ultimately just want to give him the platform to talk about the Success Foundation, some of the work that is being done, but more importantly, where they are now and what is needed right now.
Good morning, everybody. Jason, thank you. Chris, thank you. Richard, thank you. And I'll be brief with just the Education Success Foundation. We have roughly 2,000 students throughout Rochester, as well as their families. You know, our motto right now is to adapt, respond, and don't miss a beat with the COVID-19 crisis taking place. And so within our system and within our programs, we are really looking for support to help with the technology resources, getting those to families, as well as the internet access. We're looking for K-5 support to provide those hands-on learnings. Things are virtual right now, but we can actually be creative and provide hands-on learning for our youth, especially the young ones, because it is difficult being inside at home. It's difficult for parents to, you know, work alongside their child who's running around crazy, I'm sure, who's asking lots of questions for their schoolwork that needs to be completed. And so we are being very creative in that process and are looking for ways to provide those hands-on learning and additional support for families, as well as guided activities. And one of the things that we've done is we took a look at, anybody, there's Groupons, there's these masks and these capes. And one of the things that we were excited about was how can we get these to the families so that we can talk about healthy eating, right? That's a discussion for students. And there was something that we re-referenced was 5210, be a healthy hero. So here's definitely a hands-on opportunity for students to be a healthy hero and providing those resources. And then we're also looking for support. We have roughly 150 teens right now who are job ready, who are looking for employment. One of the things we do is we do provide employment training for students, and we've been very successful with that. We place students at Wegmans, we place students at the hospital systems, we place students Tops, Dollar General, wherever we can. And so we're looking for support for that and transitioning to virtual learning for our students, as well as with teens, how do we keep them engaged? The caller earlier mentioned, that is a concern for our youth. And so our team has come up with some creative ways to do it. And so we're looking for resources for that. One of the things, and I'm making a suggestion for everybody, is a movie night, a virtual movie night that can be done. It's inexpensive as well as what can we do to provide props for our students to continue to learn. One of the great things about our organization, just as Jason said, we are supported by the Sands family. And any support that we receive, especially dollars support, they match it to $1.50 for every dollar. So thank you guys for hearing our needs. We appreciate it and definitely look for our feedback.
That's great, Jamar. Thanks for sharing. And Jason, bless you, my friend. I appreciate everything that you said. We're running up against about 15 minutes, and I have 3 more people who I'd like to get to. So what I would like to say is if you haven't had a chance to say something, please use the chat. And it sounds like we're gonna ultimately have to do this again sooner than later. There's a flood of incredible information and inspiring content here, and I want to dive deeper into it, which is what we were able to do in the last call. So we'll talk amongst ourselves and figure out a way to do that. What I would say is let's have 3 more people. Is Kelly here? I'd like to keep it to, we're going to have to keep it to about 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, so we can do a little wrap up at the end. And I apologize for having to cut that time down. But Kelly, are you here somewhere?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I'm going to give you the floor here. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. A lot of hard acts to follow. But my name is Kelly Finnegan. I'm a social worker. I'm the director of operations at the House of Mercy. And thank you to Chris and Richard for the opportunity. And special shout out to Mary Lupian, who hooked me up into this group, which is wonderful. And Mary's been a great support to the House of Mercy, especially during COVID-19. I'll try to be brief, which is hard for me to do. We're the largest homeless shelter and soup kitchen in Rochester. Normally there's about 110 people that sleep at the House of Mercy every night. We usually serve about 450 meals every day to people in need. We're open 24/7. People are probably familiar with it, with Sister Grace Miller, who's been an advocate for housing, justice, and racial equality for 50 years. And the COVID situation has been quite scary, actually, for us. We didn't really know what to expect. In all due respect to local leaders, especially at the county, who have done many wonderful things. Also, what happened is something that I've seen since I've been in Rochester, is that often people that are poor and people of color are the last to get last to address that issue. And I think we've seen that with COVID. There wasn't really a great plan for the homeless community. So luckily there's been some movement recently. We've moved people into a number of hotels. We have about 140 people living in 3 different hotels throughout the city. Normally, as I said, we have 110 people at the House of Mercy. We've reduced it to about 45 people, which is wonderful to promote that distancing. But it leads to bigger challenges. We're now kind of running shelters throughout the county. So there's a lot of organization that has to go on. We're looking for volunteers to help drive people from one shelter to a hotel or back again. We've started a food distribution program partnering with FoodLink and Reach, the temporary shelter. So about 4 or 5 days a week, we're delivering meals and full boxes of groceries to folks we're trying to keep them at home to stay safe. So we're looking for volunteers who are willing to drive people and then drive goods and food to people who are staying at home. And I think that's about it. I mean, we could use people's prayers and thoughts. Any ideas people have, of course, we're open to. And I don't want to take up too much time.
Kelly, thank you. Absolutely, always 100% receiving prayers and positivity. That goes for everyone on this call. And I have to say, just like, as you were talking, it's just all the culmination of everything that everyone's been mentioning today. Just give me like a flood of emotion. And so I just feel so grateful to have all of you talking through this. And I'm feeling very called to have an extension, so which would dive deeper into some of these topics. So please know that that's in the back of it's actually in my heart right now. So so thank you. And if we don't get around to, being able to touch on all the points here, we will certainly in the future. So thank you for sharing that. Is Stuart here? Stuart?
I'm here.
There he is. All right. I'm going to give you the floor here.
Thanks.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see so many familiar faces here. And I'm just going to kind of roll through. I'm the executive director at Rochester Education Foundation. For those of you who don't know us, we're an independent nonprofit, and we have been around for about 15 years, and we provide resources and programs for students in city and charter schools, and kind of expanding that out to also work with community partners like rock music. So I was happy to see Armin here and giving some instruments to those guys. And I kind of have 3 areas I want to just chat about really quickly. We have some things to offer, also some things that I'm going to see if people can kind of crowdsource here for us. We have instruments that we get donated to us and that we have given primarily out to students in the district. I've also been working with some charter schools, and we know that there's a lot of students who didn't know that they were going to be stuck at homebound instruction for the rest of the year when they left school on the Friday before all of this began. So we've been working with teachers and parents to get instruments that we have in our storeroom to students, and we've been doing I like to call it hands-free delivery, but we've been providing those out. So we have a link on our website where students, and if they're a city kid, that's great. That's what we're looking for. That they can make a request for one of those instruments, and then we will coordinate drop off. Either I live by Wilson, so I've been dropping off in front of Wilson High School, maybe at East High School, and then by MCC downtown campus. We want to make sure that those drop-offs are safe in public, and we can disinfect the instrument before it goes over to the student and the parent. So we've been providing those out as loaner instruments that the student will give back to their teacher once someday school begins again. We have a link to that on our website, and I'll put that link in the chat, but it's rochestereducation.org. We also have a college access program where we do a lot of FAFSAs. For those of you with students, that word probably gives you nightmares, but financial aid forms for students to go to college. This is a critical time of year for seniors, and it is really where we've just taken the whole support structure for most of our kids and just completely removed it. So we usually do a lot of events. We were doing 2 to 3 in-school visits per week before this happened, to do FAFSAs, to do help kids understand the financial aid that they were being offered, what's good, what's not good. And we're transitioning that onto an online platform. We have a link to that as well. Students can make an appointment with my 2 staff who will walk through the process with them, really any of the questions that they have. How do I even choose a roommate? It's anything that they have, but really trying to focus on FAFSAs. I was, when we're talking about the road to recovery for our economy, it has to have an on-ramp for these students who are seniors right now. It has to. Otherwise, this is a loss. We can't let these students right now be a lost generation. So we have the instruments that we're offering. We have college help that we're offering. And our services are for city school students, charter school students, but it's really anyone who really needs it right now. We also have a book room that we're offering up. We're partnering with Urban Choice Charter School to create book bags for their students K-8, so they can have a grab and go book. We heard that they just don't really have books at home. So we are bagging up. We think we're gonna be able to give 3 books to every student K-8. We have about half of the books right now. So if folks have quality books that are, lightly used, or they are, like pretty much new, let me know. We need about 180 books spread across K-8. So we most of those are more towards the younger age group of that. So if you've got a box of books that you're trying to move, let me know. We do also have a ton of books for high schoolers that are brand new. I sent Jamar a message. Maybe we can work to get some of those home to students. That we really just want to have resources out. So if you work with city students, city kids, let me know. I'd be happy to provide high school age books for students. Finally, I have a contact who's a bilingual teacher here in the district, and they really aren't able to send home any resources to their kids. The kind of the packets that our students get are pretty general for a 3rd grader, regardless of what school or what kind of scenario they have educationally. And I was talking with her, and for kind of $10 a kid, we could send home a number of books in English and in Spanish to each one of her students to kind of augment that. So if you want to sponsor 50 kids in a 4th and 5th grade bilingual program, we'd love to kind of organize that as well. I just think that we have so many opportunities to support students, and I think that nobody has all the answers right now, so we've got to kind of create this patchwork. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time. Go to rochestereducation.org to get those links, either to request an instrument, to send out for our students to get a counseling for FAFSA, for TAP, for understanding financial aid, for seeing how to even apply to college. We'll be happy to help. So thank you, everyone, for providing this platform.
Stuart, thank you so much. I see that there are some people who are reaching out and saying, hey, I'll drive. There's all kinds of things going through the chat. So please put your information in the chat. Richard, before, I know there's one other, I want to call on Doug here, if he's here. Before I do that, Richard, we've got a couple minutes, and I know I want to be sensitive of time if people have to hop off the call at 9. Do you want to say something, and then we'll go a little over and have Doug talk a little more about if he's here. Doug, are you here?
Not that this is competitive, but we're saving the best. We're saving the best for last. No, I don't want to diminish Doug's time, but RocGrowth was conceived by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs and innovators, and challenges create opportunities. And I love the metaphor, creating a patchwork, that Stuart just used. It's a messy process. It's a challenge. Thank you for everyone for participating, but please start trying to build the dialogue. If you prefer Twitter, I know I got a direct chat from someone who's a Twitter user. Let's try to perpetuate the discussion. Facebook, standard email, info@RocGrowth will help if you have ideas or want to follow up in any way directly with the team. So please, let's keep the discussion going. We're going to be in this for a while, and as we come out of it, hopefully Rochester will look much better, and we will be featured, if not nationally, internationally, as a progressive community that has responded in this dire moment of need. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Doug, I'm gonna say we'll definitely go overtime here. If people have to jump off, I just want to say thank you for being here. Stay tuned. We'll do something else as an extension of this. Have no doubt, right, Richard? It's just how we roll. Doug, if you'd like to take the floor, please, everyone, feel free to keep on the lookout, support one another. Bless you. Stay safe. I'm going to kind of say all that right now. Actually, Doug, sorry, I keep calling on you and then have one more thing to note. There's one thing I would like to do while we do have people here. If you could turn your video on, Adriana takes a photo. And so rather than just take a random photo of all of the Hollywood squares, we like to at least wave, because I've done this before and people are looking down or drinking coffee. So wave, make a funny face, a peace sign. There's a couple of screens to flip through, Adriana. So can you flip through them and take a photo of everybody? All right, so hold it. It's like the cheesy uncle. All right. Thanks. Let us know when you're done. Yay. I feel like this happens every year to me at Thanksgiving. Okay, good. All right, cool. All right, Doug, without further ado, I'm sorry, man.
That's okay. That's okay. You got a great group of folks here. I hope everybody can hang in there for a little bit. Usually if this were a presentation in our, I guess, regularly scheduled times that we are used to experiencing, I'd have young people here able to really light up this room. So I apologize that I can't bring that level of energy and creativity. But Richard started with a couple words that I want to note, which is community and empowerment. And I'm the director of teen empowerment here in Rochester. And I think that really brings a lot of it together for me. We're a neighborhood-based youth organizing project that hires young people, teenagers, as paid youth organizers. They look at the issues that young people face in their community and then begin organizing events, activities, and projects to impact those issues. And I think usually we talk about some of the most disconnected young people in our community. And I think the way we look at it is, we often hire some of the young people who are most connected to the issues that young people are facing, whether it be violence or, poverty and some of the, issues that other people spoke about. And what we do is give young people an opportunity to use their voices to change what's happening through, they organize open mic nights and all kinds of block parties and ways to really connect and build community. And they organize their peers, and we do a lot of work to impact the systems. Young people are speaking out at school board meetings. We're training recruits in the police academy and having dialogues with police about how to treat folks of color in the community and young people in our community, and that it's our community. And so one of the things that we have continued to do throughout this process is we continue to employ young people. And they're looking for new ways to engage their peers through these social networks and a virtual world. And, we're not a direct service agency, although, we do find ourselves oftentimes having to provide services, but we collaborate with the folks oftentimes that are doing that a little bit better than us. So our forte really is to hire young people to continue to create change in their community. And like I said, we've continued to do that. We often talk about, Jason mentioned the asset-based model, and we talk about young people coming into teen empowerment because they're needed, not because they're needy, because we need their talents and skills to really change what's happening in the community and to be able to allow young people to uplift other young people. So I appreciate all the comments about structural racism, and we're constantly looking for to utilize young people's voices to break down the historical barriers and systems that have been created. In terms of the kinds of things that we need right now, I mean, there are one-offs, but I think oftentimes because we work with young people over a long period of time and really build those levels of relationships, that we're we've dealt with the immediate needs already. We're looking for kind of those things that'll continue to come up in this time period, and as hopefully we move out of this. So yeah, we're trying to build a fund so that we can address some of those needs as they come up that are a little bit different. We want to continue to employ young people. Actually, 50% of our direct program staff are former youth organizers that were hired with us as teens that are now working in their early 20s. So they're still, stepping out to build a life for themselves. And we want to continue to employ them part-time on our staff to run the programs with the young people. We have a pretty amazing luncheon that I know a lot of you out there, Tom, Kim, Mary, Frank, Kelly, Jason, a lot of you guys are, big supporters. And we have this awesome luncheon that was supposed to happen in 3 weeks at the convention center, where we usually bring together over 900 individuals. And we are moving into June 17th. We're going virtual. It means a whole new world and way of doing things. So we're going to need some help with tech. We're working with some folks, but we're going to need some technical underwriting for, these, kind of new way of, reaching hundreds of folks with the messages at Teen Empowerment. And I will say also that our luncheon has been successful enough to provide about a quarter of our budget every year. So, that is certainly being challenged right now, as we're not able to do the kind of fundraising that we usually are able to do. So, as we get information out, people could help promote, get us sponsors and promote this luncheon to, make it national. Let's take the Teen Empowerment Rochester national with this luncheon, and maybe folks in this room could help promote that to friends and family that might be across the country. The last thing I'll say too is that we're, just because of all the needs that young people have throughout their day, we're expanding we do a yoga program, and we're expanding that as well in this time. So we want to be able to continue to, employ Yoga Revolution to, do the work that they're doing with us. So really appreciate the support. I'll send my email on this, and if anybody wants to contact me, Richard and Chris, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to folks here. Thanks for the time this morning, you guys.
Oh man, you bet. Thank you, Doug. And I'd like to talk with you a little bit more. I sent you a private message here, but about how we can get some of the youth on a call like this, and hear and see and feel and experience some of that energy. I think it's something that I would love to participate in myself. Yeah. So cool. What's that? Sorry. I think we're good. We usually have a chance to do popcorn, but this has been, I'm getting a lot of conversational chat here, and trust that everyone will, has formed many creative collisions, even though we're not in a physical space together. So bless you all.
We want your feedback. This is about community. So if you want to do something like this again or have suggestions, please let us know. info@RocGrowth.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, Tom. What a team, right?
Yes. Thank you to everybody. And we will look forward to the next time we get to do something like this together. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe.
Yes.
Peace. Blessings.
Peace.
Bye.